In this video, we're going to be repairing the cracked display on this iPhone 11 Pro. I found this phone on OfferUp for $300, and after talking with the seller, they dropped it down to $270, which is not too shabby. So I purchased this phone to repair and resell, and after the repair is done, we can post it up for sale anywhere from $350 to $400. That's the price range these are going for in my area. In my experience, the 11 Pro usually sells pretty fast for about $350. So since $350 is the lowest I would take, I'll be making a minimum of $80 more or less. I'll show you guys the process of how I do this to make a little extra cash on the side. Alright, so what I do when I purchase an iPhone with a cracked display is that I refurbish the display instead of replacing it with the aftermarket one, whenever it is possible. Buying a whole new display quickly digs into your potential profit if you're in the business of repairing and reselling devices. These are some of the tools that I use when I refurbish a screen, so if you'd like to see what they're called, go ahead and pause the video. So when you refurbish a screen, you're essentially just replacing the glass layer and keeping the original display, which is more cost effective. A new glass costs about $2 to $5 at most, and a new display can range anywhere from $30 to $75 depending on the quality. If you do get the cheaper displays, usually the quality is really bad and you can have a lot of issues, so I don't recommend getting those. Another thing is that you can't always refurbish a display. From my experience, you can only refurbish the original Apple display. If you see any lines across the screen, usually these are either pink, green, or purple, or if you see any black spots where it looks like liquid spilled inside the display, you won't be able to refurbish that screen, and you'll have to replace the whole screen with the new one. In some cases, the glass is the only thing that gets damaged, like this iPhone 11 Pro, and you can refurbish the original Apple display and save yourself a lot of money. This is not a DIY unless you're okay with purchasing the equipment required to do this, which from what I've seen has gotten a lot cheaper and a lot better lately. Anyways, this is the part where the fun begins. So I start off by cutting the top of the frame in half. I also like to apply a generous amount of 99% ISO alcohol, which makes it a lot easier to cut through the adhesive in between the frame and the OLED panel. This is one of the tools I like to use during this process. It's a thin piece of metal and easily fits underneath the frame. So I'm simply just making my way around the frame, cutting through the adhesive while applying more ISO. Now the tricky part is separating the frame at the bottom. There is a lot more adhesive here, and this is where the flex cable for the OLED is located. During this part of the process, I like to use a thin piece of plastic here when cutting through, just to be on the safe side. Now that the frame has been removed, it's time to test out the display. I use this test box called the DLS300 to test things out like the touch functionality and to make sure the display hasn't been burned by going through various colors and images. Now that I made sure everything is good, I like to create an insert point for my cutting wire using a razor blade. Since my tripod is mounted on my desk, I had to cut in the opposite direction, which made the process a lot harder than it is. I'm limited on the amount of space that I have, so eventually I will have to figure out a better overhead setup to give you guys some better quality footage. During the cutting process, you want to keep an eye on the wire to make sure it's not getting caught on any broken glass, or to also make sure you're not cutting through the touch digitizer. This is what our screen looks like after separating it from the glass. During the cutting process, I accidentally yanked the wire, so I kinda already had a feeling that the digitizer got damaged, and it was during this point I knew I fucked up. If you're enjoying the content so far, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel for future repairs. So after the glass separation process is complete, the next step is to remove all of the ochre from the OLED panel. I could have skipped this step, but I wanted to be sure that the digitizer was damaged before removing it. The cleaning process is probably what takes the longest when refurbishing a screen. Using a glue removing tool makes this process a lot faster. Alright, so once I finished removing the ochre, I did notice some damage on the touch digitizer, so that's when I figured I would have to be replacing it. Removing the digitizer can be a lot more tedious, but this is what we signed up for. And it's funny because I knew something was going to go wrong at some point because I had to work around my tripod and I couldn't get a good angle. So this is our new glass and digitizer that we will be applying to our OLED panel. Unfortunately, since the original touch digitizer has a chip that's programmed to the iPhone and our new digitizer has another chip, we are going to get that unable to verify this is a genuine Apple display message, which kind of sucks. This issue can be fixed by swapping over the original IC chip onto the new digitizer. After giving the panel a deep clean, it's time for the final touches before applying the new glass and digitizer. So during this step, it's important to make sure there isn't any type of lint or debris left on the panel since it will be visible and cause bubbles during the lamination process, and you don't want that. Here I insert the panel into our alignment mold so I can apply the new glass. And at this point, I also noticed that our new glass did not have the ochre pre-installed, which is pretty annoying. Alright guys, so now we have our glass attached to our panel after applying a layer of ochre, and it's time to throw it into the oven. This machine basically laminates the new glass onto the OLED panel and removes any bubbles that may occur during the process. After the lamination is complete, it's time to take our screen back over to the workspace for some final inspecting. I don't know why, but removing the plastic covering the adhesive on the touch digitizer cable is so satisfying. Here's a little preview of how the screen turned out. It's a little hard to see through the camera, but this thing is pretty much flawless. So it's also important to do a lot of testing to make sure that the functionality of the new touch digitizer is working properly and there is no dead spots or glitchy areas anywhere. Everything's looking good, and now it's time to attach the new frame. If you're still watching, I just want to thank you for taking the time and interest to go through this whole process with me. Feel free to drop some comments if you have any questions about screen refurbishing. I am no pro by any means, but I'll help you with what I can. Alright, so here are some more tools that I use to attach our frame onto our screen. Obviously, we have our new frame, and then we have our alignment mold / clamp and our glue dispenser. So I like to insert the new frame into the mold because it makes it much easier to insert the screen into the frame after applying a thin layer of cold pressed glue around the bezel. When inserting the screen, it's important to make sure the cables don't get caught in between the frame and the screen. Once that's done, I attach the top part of the clamp, which evenly applies pressure around the edges of the screen to get a nice good seal in between the frame and the screen. I did let this sit overnight since we don't have a customer waiting to get their device back. So after removing the screen from the mold and doing some inspecting, I did some more testing just to make sure that everything is working 100%. Before I put this phone back together, I want to transfer the data from the old chip onto the new one using our iCopy device from Keon Lee so that we could keep that True Tone feature that most people don't really know about. The new ear speaker mesh is the cherry on top to make this display look like new. When applying the mesh, the little metal tab has to be pointing up. So after a quick clean, we can finally put everything back together, including this plastic piece that holds down the ear speaker and sensors. Now I simply apply the new water and dust resistant seal and put everything back together. Alright, so there we have it, the finished product. It looks pretty damn good if you ask me. Anyways, if you made it to the end, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't break your device if you don't want it to end up in a future repair video. See you guys in the next one.